Welcome back, everybody. How are you doing? I'm excited about today's podcast. It's all about how to have a tough conversation. We all have it. We all have to have it because we are human. When last did you have a tough conversation with somebody at work? Your boss, your leader, your supervisor, your colleague, maybe a subordinate. What about your partner? What about your best friend? We are all faced with having to have tough conversations with people. And you know what? That is life. But if you can leverage a tough conversation in business and in your career, you can make a significant impact. You can make the relationship better. You can improve performance. You can improve relationships with peers and colleagues and supervisors. You can have a shift in performance. But the question really is how to have a tough conversation. And it's something that we all battle with. We all have our reasons for not having those. Avoiding a tough conversation is very common with people for various reasons. You may have some emotional trauma from childhood where an abusive parent maybe verbally abused you when you called something out, or when something was wrong, you didn't speak up. There are so many reasons why people do not want to have a tough conversation. Maybe it's your self-image. Maybe it's because you don't believe in yourself. Maybe you don't believe in the idea. Maybe you know that you stuffed up, that this was your mistake, and you don't want to man up, woman up, person up for making that mistake. And now the tough conversation has to be had, and you try and avoid that. So today is all about being able practically to have that tough conversation. So we're going to speak on a number of points, and you're going to enjoy this. You're going to get some tools in the toolbox to help you navigate this in life in general, with family and friends and your partner, your life partner, and also, but very importantly, in your work situation. So, right, let's dig into the start of this. So the first thing we're going to talk about is caring. Now, caring is foundational to having a tough conversation. Why do I say that? When you are confronted with a situation where you realize that two people, you and another individual, will have to have a tough conversation, and you realize this is a must happen, the very first thing that we must ask ourselves is, do I really care for this person? Is that why I want to have this conversation with this person? That's a tough question. Because in most cases, I found for myself, for a large portion of my career, that I didn't really care about the person's feelings or the person's success. I really only cared about my agenda or the business. So this was about the business, or it was about me. It wasn't really about the person. So I'm having this tough conversation because this person is not performing at work. This person is not delivering what they should be doing. This person is causing disruption in the team, or this person or my boss just don't want to listen to me. I have all the plans and ideas, and my boss don't want to listen. So a foundational starting point as the first point is to understand that a tough conversation has to its roots the fact that you need to care for that person. Okay, I know this is controversial, but this I found to be very, very helpful for me. And for a long period in my life, in my career, I avoided tough conversations. I'll be honest with you. It was when I saw I'm an enabler. So if you go through the Working Genius philosophy, that book that was published, there's also a podcast on that. So one of my key strengths is an enabler. So I'll give you the tools and the equipment and the training that you need to do your job well. And so my focus for a large part of my career was just giving you the tools, giving you the equipment to perform. And if you don't perform, then I will just give you more tools, more equipment, but I won't have that conversation. And I would look into myself. Was it me? Did I not give you everything you need? But there were times when people needed a tough conversation, and I avoided those. And I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. And so when I discovered through John Maxwell's teachings and the way he has helped me navigate this portion of my professional career and life in general, I realized that if I can think about having a tough conversation because I deeply care about the person's well-being first, then the need for that conversation is so much more pronounced. You actually don't want to delay it because you care deeply about this person. You want to have this conversation as quickly as possible. Which leads me to the second point, that the relationship with you and this person must be stronger after the tough conversation. So your objective of having this tough conversation is to improve the relationship. Once again, coming back to that first point, the agenda is not you. The agenda is not the business. The agenda is improving the relationship between you and this person. All right. The third point is never have a tough conversation when you are emotional. So many things are said during emotional times, and we feel terrible after saying something extremely rude, something really bad. We climb into a character of a person and we can't take those words back. Now, we've all done this, unless you're not human. We have all done this. We are emotional. And if you are, your teenage years, we will all recall that, our frontal lobes of our brains haven't been developed yet. So we see black and white, hate and love. We don't understand really this gray emotions in between. But when you've passed that portion of about 24 years old, there's no excuse why you cannot develop your emotional intelligence and make a decision to do things differently. And I had a very, very short temper for a long, long time in my life. And I actually, even into 20 years into industry, I still had a short temper, and I would call people out in a meeting, and I would be emotional and, put my fist on the table. That's no way to take people along the journey with you. In fact, when you are emotional, you drop a level down and you lose a hell of a lot of respect from people. So when you have a tough conversation with people, don't do it when you are emotional. Give it a day or two, give it a couple of hours if you need to. Sleep over it, sleep again over it before, so that your emotions can calm down firstly, and you can look at this in an objective way. And we will uncover why that's important later on. But don't do it, the next point, in public to humiliate a person. A lot of times we do that. I've just spoken about my example of that, when you are in a team environment and maybe you're the leader of the team and things are not going well. The performance is not there. The production numbers are not there. The sales numbers are not there. Or, the safety is not there. Whatever the challenge you have in business. And then there's a team of people and you take it out. You are emotional in front of your team and you take it out on somebody. It's extremely humiliating for a person to do that. You will struggle for many, many years to build that relationship back up. In fact, you've broken trust with that individual for a long, long time. You're going to have to really repent and go back and change with your behavior and your actions, words that you've said in public and humiliating somebody that you can't take back. And sometimes humiliation is not even seen as humiliation because we don't even think about the fact that the person may feel humiliated. And you cannot control how people feel. You also cannot tell them your feeling is wrong. You shouldn't feel that way. They feel that way because they feel that way. There are things that you don't know, their perspective, that makes them feel like that. And if you humiliate a person or you lose your temper or you are emotional having a tough conversation with somebody in public with other people there, it's going to be really, really difficult for you to restore that relationship and that trust. Okay, so now you realize all of this, you've done well, you've realized that I've got my emotions intact, or you didn't, but you know that you now have to have this conversation with somebody. All right, so what do? Once you've calmed down and you've given it a bit of thought and you've realized, look, I need to have this conversation with this person, you plan for the session. You plan for the session as soon as possible, preferably the same day if you can manage that and it suits both of your diaries and you've both got time for that. But before you actually have that conversation, careful planning needs to take place. Let's talk about planning, which is the next step. Ask yourself the following when you are alone and when you prepare for this tough conversation. Firstly, what do I value about this person the most? We all have value. If you don't see it, you just haven't looked hard enough. It's impossible that a human being created by God, and I'm a person of faith, a person in this universe don't have value. It's impossible. And you have to dig deep if you don't see it, but look for value and make it clear to yourself what you value the most about this person. What do they do in the team? How do they contribute to the organization? Now, let us put it this very, very clearly, that there are a very small percentage of people that come to work every day and say, today, I'm going to stuff it up. I'm going to make it my job. All my effort and energy is going to go in today just to do a horrible job so that people are extremely unhappy with me. That just is not our nature. So every person has got value, and they do come to work to actually add value. Whether they can add value is a function of how we enable them and the training and the relationships, but every person has value. And you need to figure out for yourself why this person is valuable and what is their value and what do you appreciate from them. Then the second thing in preparation for this session that you ask yourself is, will this conversation add value to them? It's a tough question. So, and how will this conversation add value to them? So it takes you back to the very first point where we said that caring is foundational to having a tough conversation. So if you plan to have this conversation, the point that you're trying to answer is, how will this conversation add value to them? What do I help them with? How will this help them? How will this make them better people, better humans? Sometimes the third question in planning for this is, Are you sure the problem is not with you? You see, many times, many times, certainly in my career, the problem was sitting on my end and not with that person. So sometimes the tough conversations, many times in my case, the majority of times, the problem was on my end. Is the problem not with you? Maybe you should apologize. Maybe you didn't deliver. Maybe you didn't communicate well. Maybe you managed the project poorly. Maybe you didn't bring your team along. Maybe you didn't have the right tools and equipment and you had an influence there. So when you plan for this conversation, it actually may be that you go into this conversation apologizing for what you haven't done and where you stuffed up. Do you need some one-on-one coaching? Do you know that theminingcoach.com offer these services as part of Kumena Consulting? Kumena means grow, and most top athletes and sport teams all have coaches to grow and become better. Why don't you reach out to us by sending us an email, and you will qualify for getting your first coaching session absolutely free. Contact us at Christo@theminingcoach.com. Terms and conditions apply. All right, so if you doubt whether you're the problem or not, there is a final question or a final thing that you can do in preparation, and that's to ask for the opinion of somebody else that you trust, that is aware of the situation, that you can share enough detail that they can give you honest feedback. But really, this is not about talking behind people's backs and gossiping and disrespecting people behind their backs. This is really testing with your inner circle, somebody that you trust that won't talk about this with somebody else, and ask their opinion about the situation. Maybe you were in the wrong. Maybe you doubt whether you were in the wrong. But it's good to get that third perspective. All right, we're moving on to actually having this session. And then the session is about making sure it's a time that fits both of your calendars. So schedule the session, go to this person, say, look, Christo, can we have a conversation about what happened yesterday? I really need to clear the air with you, and I know maybe this is not a good time for you. Would you mind checking your diary and see if you've got half an hour to an hour somewhere so that we can have a chat? We at least, I think, need half an hour, and preferably an hour, so that we can just talk through all of this. We really need to have a conversation. What time will work for you? Would you mind getting back to me on that? I've mentioned the fact that it shouldn't be less than 30 minutes. You actually don't give justice to the process by scheduling a session less than 30 minutes. And sometimes I've found that these sessions can land up being an hour and a half to 2 hours. But so make sure that you give enough time for that. The next step is, during this session, start with positive appreciation as per your preparation. So, Christo, thanks for making the time for this. I know you're super busy. You know what? I really appreciate that you've got so much passion for your department and that you are energetic and bringing so many ideas to the business. You are always coming up with plans, and I really appreciate that from you in the business. That's just starting with something positive. Make them feel that you do appreciate them. So you've done your planning, you know, and you start with that positive interaction. Then you actually now dig into the conversation. And this is where the tricky bit comes in. And many people say, how do I start this? Well, start with the event. Start with what happened. So, Christo, yesterday when we had this fallout, you mentioned that my department was the reason that we are not getting the production numbers that we set out in the business plan. And I would really like to understand your perspective better. Can you help me understand that and unpack that for me so that I can understand your view on this? you see the technique. So the technique is to take the glasses off from your end and put the glasses on their glasses, the way they see it. And for those that's not watching on YouTube, I've just taken off my glasses and put them back on. But really make an effort of understanding their perspective. Ask questions. Ask to understand it better. And ask, help me understand. You see, so you're not being personal about, I didn't like the way you spoke to my people. I didn't like the way you said that. You want to understand. Remember what you're trying to do. You're trying to restore, make the relationship stronger, and you want to add value to the person. All right, so it's important that during this time, you do not go in defense mode at all. You want to understand it. If anything, the chances are very good that you'll realize there's similarly stuff on your end that needs to happen. And where you and your department or you have stuffed up, where you need to apologize and put stuff in place, put actions in place that will show your colleague, your boss, whoever that is that you're having this tough conversation with, your partner, that you're going to change behavior. All right, so the next step is be open to change when required. So when you have asked the questions to help me understand, a very good way of dealing with this is to make some proposals to deal with this. So you can lead it this way. You can say, would it help you if the next time something like this happens that you and I can have a conversation before we meet with the team, and then you and I can unpack this a little bit better so that I can understand where you're coming from? Or would it help you that I, when things start going wrong, I can have a conversation with you very early on in the process? Would it help you if I can share the project plan with you? Would it help you, whatever that comes out of the conversation, would it help starting that part of the sentence with would it help you means that you are showing intent of helping them, of adding value to them and making their lives better. All right, the second last one is agree that what you can commit to, and inform the person, I can commit to do the following. I can do this. I can do the following, A, B, C. And you know what? Maybe I'm going to still stuff it up a little bit because our habits don't die easily. We have to work at it and we've got blind spots. But I'm going to ask you, Christo, if I stuff up again, or if this goes again off kilter, would you just help me and remind me that, about our conversation today? Would you mind helping me? Because I know maybe I'm going to try my best, but there may be times that I'm going to, go down this rabbit hole again and make this mistake again. And I really want to, and I really value you and what you're doing and your department, and just help me that I can add value in this way, and just remind me when I'm going off track again. Would you mind doing that for me? You know what? That approach does wonders in letting people know that you're human. You don't intend on not working at this issue, but you will commit to asking them that they guide you when you go off track again. And then finally, you thank the person for their time and their contribution to the organization. Remind them of why you value them. Maybe there's something else that you value from them, or you just value the honesty and the conversation you've had and the time they've given to you. All right. I hope this makes sense to you. We're nearly 24 minutes into this podcast. I just want to summarize that the tough conversations are extremely important in making relationships stronger. So let's just recap quickly. It's all about caring for that individual. It's about building the relationship and making it stronger. Never have a tough conversation when you're emotional. Don't publicly humiliate somebody. Do the planning for having a tough conversation. Ask yourself some important questions in the planning. We've unpacked that in a 4-step plan. So ask yourself those questions. What do I value about the person? How can I add value to the person? Is the problem not on my end? And if you need a third opinion, ask somebody else to give perspective as well. Then we spoke about schedule a session and giving enough time for that. During the session, at the start of the session, express positive appreciation. Ask enough why questions to get perspective from their end. Be open to change when required. Agree that what you can commit and how you can change things on your end. And finally, thanking the person for their time and their contribution. I hope this helps you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your mining. Cheers. The Mining Coach is part of Comena Consulting. If your company is in need of technical study support, due diligence studies, business improvement projects, or business and senior leadership coaching, why don't you contact us directly by clicking on the show notes and following the links that will connect you to us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your mining. Cheers.